has died at age 74, leaving a large gap in the world of rock. All right, some bad news to share here. The original member of Kiss has passed away. His untimely demise sent the entire music world into shock. During the memorial, Gene Simmons approached the podium and gave a great, emotional, and heavy speech that left the entire crowd in awe. The whole world witnessed the moment, realizing there was a rock legend who had become a mythical figure. In the morning of October 16, 2025, Morristown Hospital confirmed the news of Ace Frehley's death at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. According to the medical report, he died due to complications of a brain hemorrhage following a fall in the studio several weeks prior. The accident was cut short as Frehley was working on recording his own project. In hours, a chain of rock radio stations in the U.S. altered their programming schedules, replaying his hit solo tracks like Shock Me and New York Groove. The music world mourned. The Frehley family released a short statement. It was privately conducted in their hometown with relatives and some of the old mates, and had to do a lot of shows in the last few years about rock icons who have passed away, but never one such as this for me, because this is a different ballgame for me, because this was not just a rock hero to me. Among those who attended to pay their homage, the name that caused everyone to stand by was Gene Simmons. The picture of two individuals who had been apart for so long, now standing together in the final moment, became that of a travel filled with struggles and a legacy spanning over half a century. When he went on stage, Simmons was holding his eulogy, his demeanor composed. Ace was the first to get a guitar in his hand, both laughing and crying. That energy cannot be replaced by anyone. The sharing went more quickly than the bad news. During the funeral, Paul Stanley merely said, "We were different, but music kept us in the same world." Stanley's eulogy was broadcast nationally, the only time the members of Kiss were seen collectively since the band had ceased touring. Prior to his death, Frehley was continuing to record new material with familiar classical tones. His manager confirmed that he had completed nearly 80% of the project scheduled for release at the end of 2025. The last recording on the hard drive was titled Beyond the Lights, the name of which is said to be his most passionate project in more than a decade. Following the funeral, a chain of U.S. and European radio stations simultaneously replayed old interviews in which Frehley had once confessed, "I have lived my entire life in electronic sounds and black smoke. But whenever I play on stage, I feel as if I am just starting." That sentence was replayed repeatedly in the media as a total epitaph of a career walking the tightrope between brilliance and destruction. There, that day at a New Jersey funeral home the size of a small house, news outlets captured the presence of numerous later-generation performers who used to think freely of him as a creative icon. They talked not of tragedy, but of the musical boldness Ace contributed during his years with Kiss through to the end of his life. A big picture of him in his spaceman get-up dominated the center of the altar. Underneath, it was the silver Les Paul guitar Frehley played on his reunion tour. Simmons departed the funeral home following the service, refusing interviews, leaving only a brief note on his private social media. "Goodbye, spaceman." The phrase soon became legendary worldwide, appearing in tributes, special issues, and even on stages where Kiss fans met to celebrate the memory of Frehley. His death made everyone reflect upon the entire journey that he had experienced, from his early days with Kiss to becoming a solo icon. From those last moments, the crowd is walked back in time to the genesis and the journey of the distinctive music style where Spaceman started writing his signature mark, the birth of the Spaceman. Ace Frehley was born in the Bronx, New York, to a working-class family. Growing up as a teenager, he would spend hours playing a borrowed guitar from a relative, covering every lick of Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. This is where he found out he could create a sound that was unique to him, something that would become his signature. When he encountered Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley during a Manhattan audition, the chemistry was practically immediate. The three guys had a similar vision to make music that was heavier, various, and brasher than anything else available in the market then. Out of that concept, Kiss was created. Frehley assumed the lead guitarist position and created his own persona, the Spaceman, an icon of freedom, exploration, and explosion energy. He introduced light, smoke, and electric flares onto the stage, first among the group. The image instantly became a worldwide symbol that ensured Kiss got beyond the confines of an ordinary rock band. Each time he stepped on a stage, Frehley would mesmerize listeners with his heavy, rich, unpredictable guitar. During the first few years of Kiss, Frehley was instrumental in developing the sound of the band. He wrote many of the band's iconic solos and was greatly responsible for the arrangements. Shock Me is a great example of this. Written following an electric shock in the course of a performance, it became one of the greatest moments for Kiss. Frehley once explained in an interview, "I just wanted to play it like it was the last time I ever picked up the guitar." This line would eventually serve as a mantra for his improvisational performing style. With not only his technical skill, Frehley was further characterized by his boundless creativity. While recording Love Gun, he also tested new sound effects by reversing the frequency range and altering the guitar structure. This created an intense sound that was documented by sound engineers to be explosive in the air. This made his style stand out, and there was a distinct identity for Kiss that could not be achieved by any other bands. The band's popularity saw them rise from small stages to massive stadiums. Kiss reached global status, selling millions of albums and filling shows internationally. Frehley was the star of all those shows during that golden period. Even though Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were the band's faces, Frehley's guitar sound was the heart and soul that made up the Kiss image. One American music publication wrote, "If Kiss were a planet, Frehley would be the energy that keeps it spinning." Success, however, also meant pressure. Creative thinking differences started to surface. Frehley enjoyed tampering with sound, while Simmons only cared about business strategy. This dichotomy never turned into conflict, but was the precursor to future cracks. At that time, when the band was releasing Alive and Destroyer, Frehley had to record most parts separately due to the tight deadline. However, he managed to do them superbly, introducing solo tracks that are counted among the classics of that decade. Something interesting is that Frehley never allowed himself to be engulfed in the commercial machine of Kiss. He still made his own demos, wrote on his own, and innovated his own playing style. This made him a figure of respect within the music industry because he never compromised on his uniqueness. Gene Simmons' statement during the memorial service made it even more apparent that Ace did not play by the book. He was the sole member of Kiss to play from the heart, not by the book. In the late 1970s, Frehley launched his first solo album, selling millions of records around the globe. The New York Groove single established him as a separate entity outside of Kiss. Even though he was still a member of the band, Frehley demonstrated that he was capable of surviving on his own. It was also when people saw him as more than an artist who played a guitar. He was a creative legend, an inspiration to future generations of artists. Frehley's solo debut album and massive success propelled him into the limelight as part of Kiss and also as a recognized independent artist worldwide. That personal validation also showed the pressures and disparities in the relationship with his teammates, setting the stage for future challenges of the music career. Cracks behind the facade, entering the latter part of his career with Kiss, Ace Frehley had an increasingly demanding scenario. The enormous popularity forced the band to live at a tight intensity, resulting in inevitable tensions. As the touring and recording schedule turned into an endless routine, Frehley started feeling weary of the giant wheel of the Kiss franchise. As Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were concentrating on building the image, merchandising the product, and positioning the band as an international brand, Frehley also wanted to maintain the center of attention for the music. Frehley's different thinking slowly established a rift in the group. During the group gatherings, Frehley would always present the idea of converting the musical style to a more liberal side. Although Simmons focused on the commercial aspect, the tension wasn't boisterous, but it permeated each recording. In some records, Frehley's guitar contributions were altered or cut to suit the overall vision, which he wasn't pleased with. The artistic tensions became a point of contention that persisted throughout the decade. Though the band continued to be commercially successful, The time spent creating the album's Dynasty and Unmasked signaled a great shift in musical design. Frehley had less room to let his hair down, but he still made his presence known with some great songs like Hard Times and Talk to Me. While these records did not sell records, they did demonstrate his own character within the framework of Kiss, slowly converting to a